immature, the immature, that's a story for another day. Mrs. Parks was having a good day. Mother was getting over that touch of flu and was up this morning for breakfast at the table. Her husband, Raymond Parks, was one of the best barbers in the country and had been asked to take the extra work at the Air Force Base. And the first day of December was always special because you could just feel Christmas in the air. Everybody knew the alterations department would soon be very, very busy. Mrs. Parks would laugh each year with the other seamstresses and say that those elves in the North Pole have nothing on us. Obviously, that's what Beth has been working so hard. The women of Montgomery, which is in Alabama, both young and older, would come in with their fancy holiday dresses and needed adjustments on their Sunday suits, blouses. They needed just a touch, a flower, or some velvet trimming, or something to make the ladies look festive. Rosa Parks was the best seamstress. The needle and thread flew through her hand like the gold stain from Uncle Simpson's loom. The other seamstresses would tease Rosa Parks and say she used magic. Rosa would laugh, not magic, just concentration. She would say some days she would skip lunch to be finished on time. Now, that's a hard-working person. Hopefully, you through events of your life, you'll have some good hard-working men still in you. I'm not saying you don't need a seamstress. But obviously, working hard, there's nothing wrong with that job. Working hard should be instilled in all of us. This Thursday, they had gotten a bit ahead of their schedule. Why don't you go home, Rosa said, the supervisor. I know your mother is feeling poorly and you might want to look in on her. The supervisor knew Rosa would stay until the work was done, but it was only December 1st. No need to push. Rosa appreciated that. Now she could get home early. And since Raymond would be working late, maybe she would surprise him with a meatloaf for his, which is his favorite. See you in the morning. Rosa waved goodbye and headed for the bus stop. She filled in her pocket for the dime so that she would not have to ask for change. When she stepped up to drop her fare in, she was smiling in anticipation of the nice dinner she would make. As was the evil custom, she then got off the bus and went to the back door to enter the bus from the rear. Yes, she did, and she was correct. So for getting off the bus. Rosa saw that the section reserved for blacks was full, but she noticed the neutral section, the part of the bus where blacks or whites could sit, had 3 seats. The left side of the aisle had 2 seats, and on the right side of a man was sitting next to the window. Rosa decided to sit next to him. She did not remember his name, but she knew his face. His son, Jimmy, came frequently to the NAACP Youth Council affairs. They exchanged pleasantries as the bus pulled away from the curb. Rosa settled her sewing bag and her purse near her knees, trying not to crowd Jimmy's father. Men take up more space, she was thinking as she tried to squish her packages closer. The bus made several more stops, and the 2 seats opposite her were filled by blacks. She sat on the side of the aisle, daydreaming about her good day and planning her special meal for her husband. What was the special meal she was going to plan for her husband? Meatloaves. I mean, you paid attention. I said, give me those seats, the bus driver bellowed. Mrs. Parks looked up in surprise. The 2 men on the opposite side of the aisle were rising to move into the crowded black section. Jimmy's father muttered, more to himself than anyone else, I don't feel like trouble today. I'm going to move. Mrs. Parks stood to let him out, looked at James Blake, the bus driver, and then sat back down. You know what's up. You better make it easy on yourself, Blake yelled. Why do you pick on us, Mrs. Parks asked with that quiet strength of hers. I'm going to call the police, Blake threatened. Do what you must, Mrs. Parks quietly replied. She was not frightened. She was not going to give in to that which was wrong. Some of the white people were saying aloud, she ought to be arrested and take her off this bus. Some of the black people, recognizing the potential for ugliness, got off the bus. Others stayed on, saying among themselves, that is the neutral section. She has a right to be there. Mrs. Parks sat. She did not move. Who was Mrs. Parks? Let me know. As Mrs. Parks sat waiting for the police to come, she thought of all the brave men and women, boys and girls, who stood tall for civil rights. She recited in her mind the 1954 Brown versus Board of Education decision in which the United States Supreme Court ruled that separate is inherently unequal. She sighed as she realized she was tired. Not tired from work, but tired of putting white people first, tired of stepping off sidewalks to let white people pass, tired of eating at separate lunch counters and learning at separate schools. She was tired of colored entrances, colored balconies, colored drinking fountains, and colored taxis. She was tired of getting somewhere first and being waited on last. Tired of separate and definitely tired of not equal. She thought about her mother and her grandmother and knew that they would want her to be strong. She had not sought this moment, but she was ready for it. When the policeman bent down to ask her, "Auntie, are you going to move?" all the strength of all the people through all those many years joining her, Rosa Parks said, "No." Illustration here. People are in awe because she's saying no. Joanne Robinson was at the Piggly Wiggly when she learned of the arrest. She had stopped in to purchase a box of macaroni and cheese. She always served macaroni and cheese when she baked red snapper for dinner. A sister member of the Women's Political Council approached her just as she reached the checkout lane. "Not Mrs. Parks," Mrs. Robinson exclaimed. She then looked furtively around, passed the word that everybody should meet me at my office at 10 o'clock tonight, she said. Mrs. Robinson was also Dr. Robinson, a professor at Alabama State, the college designated for colored people. And she was the newly elected president of the Women's Political Council. She rushed home to put dinner on the table, clean up the kitchen, and put the kids to bed. She kissed her husband goodbye and hurried to the college. It was dark when they finally gathered. And they're talking about the arrest. Joanne Robinson was at, Does that sound familiar? The 25 women first held hands in prayer and hopes that they were doing the right thing. After all, they were going to use the stencil maker, printer, and paper of Alabama State without permission. If they were caught at the college, they would all be arrested for trespassing. But they were working to undermine a vicious law. They decided they would stand under the umbrella of courage Rosa Parks had offered, keeping off the reins of fear and self-disgust. The women quickly formed groups to carry out these tasks. Making the stencils was the most difficult because the machine keys had to be struck very hard so that the letters would be clearly readable. When the mistake was made, the whole page had to be thrown out. It took a lot of concentration. These are the women working hard, working on the stencil Rosa Parks. One or two more excerpts, and I'm done reading to you today. As they all met, they came together in a great mass meeting, the Women's Political Council, the NAACP, and all the churches. They needed someone to speak for them, to give voice to injustice. Everyone agreed that the Reverend Martin Luther King Jr. would be ideal. "We will stay off the buses," Dr. King intoned. "We will walk until justice runs down like water and righteousness like a mighty stream." So in the end, doing what you feel is right and having a passion for it is always enough when you have the backing. You understand what I'm saying? Does everybody know who Martin Luther King is? Yeah. And that, no, he wasn't a president.
He was the man who made the documentary.
He was one of the greatest civil rights leaders ever.
And he made a speech.
Yeah, he did. He had a few speeches.
And he got one of the...
Yes, he did. He was assassinated as well. Well, the young man said here that he was assassinated.
The white person. I know his name.
Yes, ma'am. He was assassinated. Let's just say that, okay? And that's the book, Rosa. Okay? I would like to thank all you boys and girls for having us here today, Mr. Felder as well as Mr. Jordan. We'd like to say thank you.
Thank you.
What do you say? Thank you.
You're welcome.